Exciting. So about 2 years ago, when I became president, I was like, I gotta get some good speakers at this thing. So I immediately thought of this person, and I said to Judy Zeller, Judy, you're my witness. Didn't you remember I said that to you?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I said that to her. I said, I'd love to get Alison Martino, because I've been a fan of vintage Los Angeles for, it must be about 5 years now. And then I got the entire city of Philadelphia, where I grew up, involved in it too. So I see them, my former classmates on there as guests. Anyway, so Alison Martino is our special guest today. She has not one but 2 shows on Spectrum TV, one of which is the SoCal Scene. Alison got her start as a writer and as a television producer on the TV show Mysteries and Scandals. She is the creator of the immensely popular online community called Vintage Los Angeles, which can be seen on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, among others. Her sites have been seen by over 2 million people, and at any time of the day, her posts will entertain thousands of comments with topics as varied as favorite lost restaurants, Chasen's, Trader Vic's, Dino's Lodge, fashion stores of no longer, like Judy's and Contempo Casuals, Sunset Strip rock bands, the long-lost Garden of Allah, late as well as living Hollywood royalty, 70s TV shows, vintage clips of riding around Los Angeles, and much, much more. Her recent post on Greenblatt's closing nearly caused a riot at Greenblatt's later that same day. She took up where the late Hugh Hauser left off, but her focus, unlike Hauser's, is strictly the city of Los Angeles. One can say that Alison loves LA. She's a fierce and emotional preservationist. She was born and raised in LA by a former American Airlines stewardess of a mother named Judy. Where's Judy? Judy's here, right? Judy, stand up and say hello. This is Judy Martino. Stand up, please. And a popular singer of a father. Alison has been dubbed the godmother of Los Angeles. This is an affectionate title associating her with the movie The Godfather, where her famous father, Al Martino, starred as friend to the Corleone family, singer Johnny Fontaine. To tell us all about her love for Los Angeles, please say hello to Alison Martino.
Thank you for having me. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Usually we have speakers with slides, but we're going to do an interview here.
Okay.
So, oh my God, all right.
Okay.
So, all right. So these are questions for Alison Martino. All right, Alison, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me good? I hear myself really well.
I got to tell a funny side story. So I said to her on the phone, I said, oh, I'm going to see Sergio Mendes at the Hollywood Bowl about a couple weeks ago. And she said, I'm going too. I said, great. And I hadn't met her in person, so I said, oh, this is my opportunity. I'll see you in person. So we texted each other, and I said, where are you sitting? She said, I'm in the pool section. So I was in G2. So I thought, all right, so I zipped down there, and it's very, it's very secure there. So it took a while to get in there, but then we've had a face-to-face finally. So you didn't want to come to G2, I noticed. All right, Alex. It was very nice, the pool section, and the show was great.
There used to be a pool there. That's why
right.
they call it the pool section. That's right.
So, all right, first question is, what was it like growing up with old Hollywood?
Okay, well, I grew up in Beverly Hills. My parents had been in our house for 48 years. They moved here in 68. And it was very different. Edward G. Robinson lived across the street from us. Kirk Douglas was a block down. And then, of course, Roxbury Drive with all the famous Lucille Ball and Jimmy Stewart and Rosemary Clooney, Jack Benny. We saw all of them. They were around the town at that time. It wasn't a huge deal. They weren't completely mobbed by paparazzi, but you'd see them at Hamburger Hamlet or Chasen's, at the bank. And Beverly Hills was like a village back then, It just did their errands.
It was a small town.
It was a small town. Rodeo Drive was nothing like it is today. It wasn't all about the labels. It was a village. There was a hardware store and a J.J. Newberry and more affordable, more aspects for a village.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, so what celebrities did you see around Beverly Hills when you were growing up? Well, you mentioned a couple in an interview I was reading.
Well, I was thinking about that. I have seen a lot, but I think some of the ones that really stand out to me was seeing Doris Day on her bike, driving around all over well, basically everywhere. She had a little bell and a little basket and waved, and we saw Milton Berle a lot. I saw Jack Lemmon getting ice cream at Thrifty. I still call it Thrifty. I don't call it Rite Aid. So Betty Davis was a big sighting at the Hamburger Hamlet, and Lucille Ball at Pips. I don't know if anyone remembers Pips, like a private club. Yeah, she was playing backgammon in the back, and I saw her at the Hamburger Hamlet, and well, I saw her in the bathroom. In the ladies' room, she was in the next stall.
She was sharing a square with her.
She was pulling up her pantyhose and kind of bitching about it, but it was hilarious. I was like a 7-year-old girl, but she gave me an autograph, and and Dean Martin, La Familia restaurant, and there was a lot of sightings.
You said something about seeing Natalie Wood shopping.
I saw Natalie Wood with my mom. We saw her shopping at a place called Pixie Town. Picking out clothes for her daughter, who was a little bit younger than me, but similar. And Coldwater Park, where I went to preschool, was Tony Curtis's kid was in my class. You're sending me down memory lane. There's a lot of things I haven't thought of.
I want to hear all this. Where did you go to middle school?
Well, I went to Beverly Hills schools my whole life. So I went to Hawthorne, and then Beverly High.
Okay.
I know, there's that. I know, I saw it.
Oh, that's right. Matt's from Beverly High.
I love it. I love it, yes. Class of 89, I'm older than you.
So I know you mentioned that you went to Beverly High, and that school is the one that has the basketball court over the swimming pool that was used in Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know if all of you know that, but in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, when the dance floor opens up over the pool, that's Beverly High. You know that? Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little trivia. What's your name?
Yeah.
So who was in your class? You mentioned a couple of famous names.
Well, I was there 4 years, so...
Some good people and some bad people.
Well, I was involved with the acting, wanted to be that. We had a great acting coach there and teacher. Dr. Engel used to be there, and so Angelina Jolie was I didn't know her because she left pretty early on. David Schwimmer. I missed Nicolas Cage, right? A couple years. His picture was up and all over. But I did go to school with Monica Lewinsky. Oh. Yeah. I know that's what everybody wants to hear about.
There's a movie about her coming out, I think.
I know.
Right now.
A miniseries. And the other one I graduated with was Eric Menendez.
Oh.
I know. Yeah, that's for another interview.
All right. So let's talk about preservation a bit, because you in your Vintage Los Angeles, you bring up lots of stuff, the Garden of Allah and all the stuff that's been lost, and you get really pissed off, I noticed in these posts. You mentioned how you hate seeing the older homes in Beverly Hills being torn down. And although I hear that there are restrictions now, but someone said no, there's no restrictions.
There is and there isn't. It just depends, I think, basically on which property wants to come down.
Yeah.
My neighborhood, Rexford Drive, luckily there's about 8 houses left that are intact, but I don't know where I am half the time, because I remember certain houses on certain blocks, like where Jack Haley lived, and Charo still has her house, I love, on Lexington. We were on the corner there, but a lot of houses I don't recognize. They've gotten very different.
I know, there was the Rosemary...
It's not like here at Hancock Park where everything is beautifully preserved, and it feels...
Thank God for the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone.
I want to get involved.
I know they tore down Rosemary Clooney's house.
Yes, they did.
Jimmy Stewart's house.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. On Roxbury Drive, yes. The Jimmy Stewart house coming down was one of the first, and that was devastating. Yeah. I know.
I mean, the thing is, you can't, just because a celebrity lived there, you can't just say, oh, it's historic. But there should be some kind of... When we were active in the HPOZ here, there's some houses in Windsor Square and Hancock Park that, believe it or not, are not contributors to the HPOZ. And you know them when you pass them. You're like, how the hell did you do that to that house? So, but it was a way to keep people within certain guidelines without putting Spanish tiles on, and beautiful
Yeah.
English house like this. All right, so let's get to when.
Hi? I think we're okay now. You did something.
All right. So let's talk about Vintage Los Angeles. When did you start? When did you start Vintage Los Angeles, and why?
Okay, well, Vintage Los Angeles, if you're on the internet, is like an online community that I created with, it started with like 500 or 600 people joining, and then it's turned into like, I don't know, a million. I never realized how many people like talking about old LA. And I was really delighted to see over the past 10 years, there's been about 10,000 photos posted with long threads all about LA, what they miss, anything from Chasen's to houses coming down or a hotel we don't have any longer. And it's also been really good to get the word out when we don't want to lose something.
Yeah.
So it's a good online
Was this
community.
right around the Mysteries and Scandals that you started at?
No, Mysteries and Scandals was a show I produced a long time ago. I don't want to, in the 90s. And this
With
is
AJ Benza.
With AJ Benza, and it's pre-internet, pre-Wikipedia. This was the information we had to get at the library, and we did 150 episodes about old Hollywood. And so I was reading a biography every week. But when we first started the show, I thought, oh, we'll probably get 10 shows done, and that'll be it. We'll do James Dean, Lana Turner, Marilyn Monroe, the big scandals. Well, 150 episodes later, I think we knew we had a successful show when Jack Lemmon called us and said he wanted to do, he recommended that we do an episode on the Hollywood blacklist. And then I knew we can go deeper with this. We can do hotels, and we can do scandals that are not just people. And then they all started coming through, and I had the opportunity of interviewing Dennis Hopper, and Rod Steiger, and James Colburn, and Elaine Stritch, who was my absolute favorite, and Mickey Rooney, who said he's the biggest star in the world. All those interviews, I would interview them for hours at a time. Only a few sound bites would make the show. So when I left, I got this fabulous education of learning from them. And another person I really loved interviewing was Steve Allen.
Oh.
And I spent hours with him and felt like I got an education on the history of movies and studios and television. And that's what started my love for old LA.
He probably said this could be the start of something big.
Yes, exactly. And he said that.
You mentioned Elaine Stritch. So what does she have? What was that all about?
She was very friendly with James Dean, as you know. So we
yeah,
did a James Dean episode, and she came on, and she was amazing. I wish those raw interviews existed. This was for E! Entertainment TV. They burned in the Universal fire. I know. Luckily, I have a few copies, but and they're on YouTube, and you can watch some of those episodes, which is good.
So how did you get the name Godmother of Los Angeles? Who dubbed you that? Is what it wasn't your father, that's for sure.
I would have rather been the goddaughter. The godmother was I live in West Hollywood, and there was a West Hollywood magazine, and they did a story on me, and it was really lovely, and they put me on the cover, and I did not know that title was going to be there, but the Godmother of LA. I was like, okay.
So Allison lives right down the street from where my real estate office is on Altaloma and Sunset. I gotta tell you this funny story, which happens to be Dino's Lodge. So before they redid La Cienega and Sunset, I used to drive up La Cienega, and I hated that really high left turn. So I figured out that I could go through the parking lot of the building there, and then there was this strange little porte cochere that I could drive through, and then make an even more dangerous left turn, and then another left. So and that was Dino's Lodge, and that was the porte cochere and they used it in
77 Sunset Strip.
Sunset
Snap,
Strip.
snap, snap, snap.
Yes, and now it's all gone because of that beautiful building. Which I know
Don't
you
get me
probably
started
love.
on the Sunset Strip, because that is just a street. I call it Sunset Stripped now, because they've stripped so much of it away.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your father a little bit, because I'm from South Philadelphia, and so is he. He was from Broad and Tasker, and I was from 10th and Morton. And so a long line of vocalists from Philadelphia, Al Martino, Mario Lanza, Eddie Fisher, James Darren, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, Bobby Rydell, were from Philadelphia. And tell us about his connection to that, because That was Burton Tasker. He grew up with Chinty. Wait,
Yes.
Cinti was the last name.
Right.
Chinty.
Cini.
Cini.
Yeah.
C-I-N-I?
Yes.
Not Chini.
Well, you could say Cheney.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
You know, yeah, my dad's from South Philadelphia, and he won a talent contest many, many years ago and started his career in around 1952. And he had the first British #1 charted single in 1952. And then, you know, all that goes on and many, many hits. And then he met my mother she was an American Airlines stewardess.
He got you were a stewardess, and oh my God. That's
In
a good story.
1964, so you can imagine, Mad Men era. He knew when he got on her plane.
I
that
saw
was
her
it.
picture, and I could see why.
Yeah, so 48 years later. And then I was, you know, they moved to Beverly Hills. My dad's record label was here, Capitol Records. And, you know, the TV shows were popular then, the variety shows like Hollywood Palace and all that. So he really kind of moved out to LA for that. Lucky for me, I got to grow up here. And I was born here.
And did he ever take you back to Philadelphia?
Many times.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
His family was still there?
Yes, yes, his mother's house was still there that he still owned it in the end. Yeah.
So,
He never broke the South Philly.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It was stays with you.
Yes.
It does.
So he loved LA.
So let's talk about this little movie called The Godfather.
Have you heard of it?
So my recollections of it, you know, South Philly is the second largest Italian-American community in America. So needless to say, when it came out, it was a big deal. My father bought the book, and then I saw the book. I never have ever read the book in its entirety, but I did read special sections in the book with Tony and Lucy with Sonny and Lucy Mancini over and over and over when I was 14 and 15. In fact, I still think I remember them. So when the movie came out in '72, the casting was, we thought for sure like Frankie Avalon or Fabian or Bobby Rydell would have gotten the part of Johnny Fontaine, but we were surprised that Martino got, but he was great in it. So
You were
how did that
surprised?
happen? Well,
No, I'm kidding.
just, you
I think
know,
they
it's,
all wanted that part. I think everybody was lobbying to play Johnny Fontaine at that part because that script was going around Hollywood, and it was known that they were going to make this film, and there was a role for a singer. I think my dad just was the right age and the right look for that, but he also was very friendly with Bob Evans. They had gone back since in the 50s together in New York. He used to call him Cary Grant because he always looked so slick. And I think when that part was coming around, my father was friends with Phyllis McGuire of the McGuire sisters, and she had recommended, you know, there's a script going around, it's perfect, it's for you, go pursue it. And he did, and there wasn't even an audition. He got that part.
and you mentioned something too that Coppola, you thought wanted Vic Damone, is that
Well,
right?
this is before Francis Coppola was involved. It was a project developed by Al Ruddy and Paramount and Bob Evans. And then when Francis Coppola came in, he had some other ideas. I think he did want Vic Damone at first, but Dad won him over.
Yeah, no, he
You
did
know,
a great job.
Yeah.
There's that famous scene, actually I have it written down over here, one of the most memorable moments in the film is when Johnny Fontaine gets smacked by Don Corleone, Marlon Brando, when he says he's going to make an offer,
Right.
the producer an offer he can't refuse.
Right.
And you said your dad would tell the story. I want to know what it was like to get smacked by Marlon Brando.
That's the question I heard over and over again at the dinner table when people would come.
Oh, really?
What was it
They
like
were
being,
asking
being smacked by Marlon Brando? Well, I'll tell you, he did not know that was coming. So, because we have the original script, it's not in there, and I think Marlon wanted to get Dad a little inebriated before.
Oh, yeah, he did look
So,
like a yeah.
I think they when he slaps Dad and he pulls him around the desk. Watch it again because you kind of see this. My dad is stunned.
Yeah.
And it's real, and it's one take, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah. I don't. It's like my dad was a huge fan of Marlon's, so that was a real thrill for
So it was
him.
okay to be slapped by him.
Absolutely.
You said people would always ask your father to tell him that same story over and over?
I've heard that story. He enjoyed telling it. It's such a great scene, and it's the scene that they really do show a lot when they're doing clips, like if AFI, puts out the 10 best movies of all time. They show that clip. So pretty exciting still.
So I saw that you were in a photo in one of these interviews with Al Pacino. So do you and the cast of The Godfather hang out with each other a lot?
No. I mean, my dad was, a singer, primarily a singer. He really wasn't an actor. So for him to get that part he really didn't go on to act. He went on to perform. He was a performer on the road. So he didn't really hang out with the cast after that. But there's been many anniversaries we've been to. 25th the whole cast was there. It becomes a family when everyone's together. I see Al occasionally at Dan Tana's, and he's very approachable and sweet. And Dad stayed friendly with Bob Evans. I mean, that was where the friendship began, and sadly lost Bob a few years ago.
I was watching a great clip last night when the whole history of how it was so, it was very tentative. They were doing these new directors, and Paramount was struggling at the time when they were doing that. It's amazing. But, all right, so I was watching Hard Copy, and I was shocked to find out that your dad was blacklisted after this movie in Las Vegas.
Do you guys remember the show Hard Copy?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So during Godfather 3, when Dad was in that again, Hard Copy wanted to do my dad's story because Dad wasn't blacklisted. It's probably the wrong word, but I know where you're going with that. But because that sounds like they shut him down and he couldn't work anymore.
Yeah.
But after Dad took the role of Johnny Fontaine, it really irked.
It was based loosely, but not really.
Well, I'm getting there, but yes, it's loosely based on many Italian-American singers, okay? It's Mario Puzo's creation. He created the Johnny Fontaine character. If you were a stylist, a singer, singing standards, or being anybody in the 50s, the mob probably ran the music industry and the casinos. So asking the Don for a favor really wasn't so... I'm sure they all did at some point. It wasn't unusual. So my dad had to leave the country for 9 years at one point with the mafia. The mafia was after his contract. But anyway, he got to come back. Where I'm going with this is that Frank got very, I'm going to say, irked by the role, and tried to shut down that entire role. Yeah, he didn't want that part in the movie at all. He thought people would wrongly base his character on that, especially the horse's head situation. Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe he wanted the part, but he was very, very upset about it. And he went to the entertainment directors in Las Vegas and told them, if Al ever plays this casino, I don't play it. Now, that's, my dad still worked. He toured the world. He played the Copacabana and the Coconut Grove and the London Palladium, so I don't think he really pursued Vegas. He may have, but 20 years later, after that Hard Copy episode, the Dunes put him back with Eddie Fisher. So yeah, it was actually 20 years later. So he got back. Just took some time.
Interesting. So let's pretend you were going on a tour guide for a day. You're a tour guide for the day. What do you do? What food places?
Oh gosh, food.
Because that's how I go around Los Angeles. It's like if I'm going on the west side, it's the Apple Pan. It's,
right.
It's the banana place on Sepulveda. So I judge LA by where I can eat.
I love Carney's. The old train. I mean, obviously Musso and Frank in Hollywood. I mean, sand dabs and flannel cakes. I mean, who makes sand dabs? Dan Tana's is one of my personal favorites. That chicken parmesan is not to be believed. I love El Coyote for the Mexican and the history.
Which one?
El Coyote.
Oh, yeah.
We just celebrated 90 years. 90 years. I tend to go for the Nate Now's. I like the classics. I'm very upset about Greenblatt's. That's devastating.
That's one of my places to go.
Yeah, that for all of us. Yeah, that's devastating.
I want to ask you a couple things about your dad that are movie related. Your dad did a song for Betty Davis, Olivia de Havilland movie Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
Yeah.
Do you have any information on how he was selected to do the song for the movie?
The director called him and picked him and said, "You're doing this song." That doesn't happen every day, so luckily he was home that day to get the call.
And he did such a great job.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, and I always regretted not telling Betty Davis that one time I saw her next to me at the Hamlet that Dad had sung the theme song to Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, but anyway, yeah.
And so what's on the horizon for for Miss Alison Martino? What's going on? What's the next step?
Well, I'm always celebrating something in LA, and I work on this show called The SoCal Scene on Spectrum News. You have to have Channel 1 to get it. The next subject I'm covering is the 75th anniversary of the Smokehouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
Other favorite
Yeah,
place.
another favorite.
wonderful.
Yeah. So that'll be in November. I think November 6th. Yeah. Smokehouse in Burbank, right across from NBC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you have a...
Yeah, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers. No, Warner Brothers. Across from Warner Brothers.
What night do you want us there?
November 6th is the 75th anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're going to do a question and answer. Anyone have questions for Alison Martino?
They want to eat.
Brett Parsons, you must have some question for Alison.
No, I'm just a big fan.
Oh, there you go. You know Brett Parsons?
Of course I know Brett.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Hi.
I was on with your boyfriend, Stephen Price, this morning.
One of my favorite people. Okay. He wrote a book about modern homes in Truesdale,
It's a wonderful
which is
book. Wonderful.
quite incredible. Kind of a hard book to get, but in eBay. Check eBay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Questions? Questions? Deontay?
Time to eat.
I think that's what they're trying to do. All right.
Thank you for having me
Thank
so
you.
much and
Coming.
allowing me to tell all these stories.